All right, so are you ready to dive into some spooky stuff today? We're talking ghosts,
Always ready for a good ghost story.
but this time we're going deeper,
Deeper.
deeper.
Okay, I like it.
We've got this online article, Unveiling the Secrets of Ghosts, a deep dive into paranormal, and it's making me think.
Making you think.
Yeah, like we've got all these ghost stories, sightings, ghost hunting shows even.
Right, EVPs and EMF readers and all of that.
Exactly, but how much of it is actually real, you know?
Yeah.
Like provable.
Ah, you're hitting the core question right there.
Right.
What even counts as proof when it comes to ghosts?
Yeah, because you hear people say, I have proof.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, but show me the receipts.
Well, and science proof means it's falsifiable.
Falsifiable.
You've got to be able to disprove it through testing.
So like with ghosts, how do you even test that?
That's the challenge. You need rigorous methodology-controlled experiments, replicable results.
It's not like you can just catch a ghost in a jar and be like, see? Proof.
Exactly. It's tricky.
Okay, so let's say someone's in a supposedly haunted house, right?
Yeah.
And they say, ooh, I felt a cold spot. Must be a ghost.
Classic ghost hunting moment.
But how do we know it's not just like a drafty window or something?
You've got to rule out all those other possibilities. That's the key.
So like meticulously document the environment, the temperature fluctuations. And
Exactly. And look for any natural causes before jumping to supernatural conclusions.
Speaking of jumping to conclusions, what about all those ghost hunting gadgets?
You mean the EMF meters and all that?
Yeah, they wave those things around and suddenly it's like, ghosts? We've got ghosts.
Well, EMF meters do measure electromagnetic fields, which are all around us.
Right, like our phones and Wi-Fi and stuff.
Exactly. The theory is that ghosts might generate or manipulate these fields.
Okay, so a spike on the meter equals a ghost.
Not so fast. There's a catch.
Oh, I bet there is.
Tons of things can cause EMF fluctuations, wiring appliances, even the Earth's magnetic field.
So it's not as simple as, boop, ghost detected.
Nope, not at all. You've got to be really careful about interpreting those readings.
Okay, but have there ever been any EMF readings linked to something truly unexplainable? Or is it all just misinterpretations and excitement?
There have been cases where investigators have attributed EMF spikes to paranormal activity.
Okay, so maybe something's there.
But without rigorous control, it's impossible to say for sure.
I'm thinking about the Amityville Horror House.
Ah, yes, Ed and Lorraine Warren.
They were all about those EMF readings, right?
They were, but their methods were often criticized.
I mean, dowsing rods and psychic readings aren't exactly scientific.
Not really. They lacked the controlled environments and objective methodologies needed.
So even with all their fame, their findings might not hold up scientifically.
It highlights a crucial point. You've got to be skeptical.
Right. Approach these claims with a healthy dose of, hold on a second.
Exactly. Personal experiences and stories are one thing, but scientific validity needs more.
This is blowing my mind. It's like separating the spooky campfire tales from actual investigation.
Precisely. And then there's the human element to consider, too.
Like our own minds playing tricks on us.
Absolutely. Our brains are wired to find patterns even when they aren't really there.
It's like seeing faces in the clouds.
Exactly. There's a phenomenon called pareidolia.
Pareidolia. That sounds like a Harry Potter spell.
It's our tendency to perceive meaningful images or sounds in random stuff.
So like with ghosts, are we talking blurry photos and weird sounds that aren't really there?
It can definitely play a role in those classic ghost photos.
The ones where it's like, is that a figure? Or just a smudge?
Exactly. Blurry figures, strange lights, faces, and shadows.
And our brains are like, boo, ghost.
Our brains are so good at recognizing patterns that we see them even in random data.
Especially when we're expecting to see a ghost, right?
Absolutely. It's like we prime our brains to find the spooky stuff.
I've totally done that, seeing shapes in the clouds or like a face in the wood grain.
That's pareidolia in action.
But how does that work in a real ghost hunting situation?
Imagine you're in a dark, creepy attic, listening for any little sound.
Okay, done got the scene set. Spooky attic check.
A floorboard creaks and you hear a faint whisper.
Goosebumps already.
Your mind races trying to make sense of the sounds and pareidolia kicks in.
So you interpret those random noises as ghostly voices.
Exactly. It's like our expectations and the atmosphere create the perfect recipe for misinterpretation.
That's wild. So it's not just about the evidence, but also about how our brains perceive it.
Now you're getting it, and that's where the skeptical perspective comes in.
Okay, so skeptics aren't just ghost deniers, right?
Not necessarily. They approach it with a critical and analytical mindset.
Like, show me the evidence and let me examine it closely.
Exactly. They rely on the scientific method seeking evidence that can be tested and verified.
So if someone's like, look, a photo of a ghost, the skeptic's not going to automatically say fake,
They'll want to examine the photo, consider other explanations.
like dust lens flares, pareidolia.
All the possibilities. They'll look for compelling evidence that can't be explained away.
So it's more like, okay, let's investigate this thoroughly.
Exactly. It's about critical thinking and finding the most plausible explanations.
But what about the existence of ghosts in general? Do skeptics believe it's even possible?
That's a big question. One argument is that the laws of physics don't support ghosts as we imagine them.
Like the classic ghost that walks through walls.
Yeah, solid objects can't just pass through each other. That's physics 101.
So if ghosts are made of energy or something, how do they interact with the physical world?
It's a good question and one that science hasn't really answered yet.
But then you have all these ghost stories from all over the world.
Countless accounts spanning different cultures and time periods.
Are they all just hoaxes or misunderstandings?
It's hard to say. There's a universal human experience there that's hard to ignore.
People report seeing apparitions, shadows, hearing unexplained sounds.
It suggests that maybe there's something more to it than just our imaginations.
It's like there's something deep within us that's drawn to the idea of spirits and the afterlife.
Why are we so fascinated with ghosts? That's a great
Yeah.
question.
Even if we can't prove their existence scientifically, maybe the stories tell us something about ourselves.
Our curiosity about what happens after death, our need to understand the unknown.
Maybe it's even a longing for connection with those we've lost.
It's like ghosts represent a way for us to grapple with our own mortality.
And to imagine a world beyond what we can see and touch.
So debunking paranormal activity isn't always about proving or disproving something.
It's about examining the evidence carefully and exploring different explanations.
Exactly. Even when someone believes they had a ghostly encounter, a skeptic wouldn't just dismiss it.
They'd encourage them to think about other possibilities, like maybe there was a logical explanation they missed, or psychological factors were at play.
It's about a more nuanced and balanced assessment of the situation.
This is so much more complex than I realized.
It's a fascinating topic with so many layers.
We have these intense personal experiences, but also the scientific method demanding proof.
And those two things don't always line up.
That tension is what keeps us coming back to these questions about ghosts.
It's what fuels our fascination with the paranormal.
So are we any closer to understanding whether ghosts are real?
I wish I had a definitive answer for you.
I figured as much.
But the important thing is to keep asking the questions, examining the evidence with an open mind.
And being respectful of different viewpoints, even if we don't agree with them.
It's about the journey of exploration, not just the destination.
And maybe someday, science will catch up to our ghost stories.
Or maybe the mystery itself is what makes them so captivating.
I like that a lot. It's not about finding all the answers, but about the journey.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And who knows what we might discover along the way.
This has been an incredible deep dive so far.
I'm glad you're enjoying it.
We've talked about scientific proof, personal experiences, skepticism, the cultural impact of ghosts.
We've barely scratched the surface.
But before we wrap up, I'm curious about the organizations that investigate paranormal claims.
Like the Society for Psychical Research.
Yeah, they've been doing this for decades, trying to bring a scientific approach to it all. So they've got all this history and research under their belts. Have they found any real proof of ghosts?
Oh, it's not that simple.
Oh, I figured as much.
Even with their scientific methods, the results are often like, maybe.
So no smoking gun?
Not really. Some investigations find weird stuff, but others, nothing special.
So even after a century, we're still not sure if ghosts exist.
It's a tough nut to crack.
But maybe that's what keeps us so interested, right? The mystery of it all.
I think there's something to that. The fact that we can't definitively prove or disprove makes it even more fascinating.
It's like a puzzle we keep trying to solve.
Exactly. And it pushes us to keep exploring and questioning and looking for answers.
So it's not just about the ghosts themselves,
Yeah.
but what the search for them tells us about ourselves.
Right. Even if we don't personally believe in ghosts, the fact that so many people do throughout history is significant.
It says something about human nature, doesn't it?
Yeah. It speaks to our hopes, our fears, our need to understand the world around us.
It's like we're trying to make sense of this big, mysterious universe.
Exactly, and our place in it.
It's like our fascination with ghosts goes beyond just spooky stories.
It touches on something deeper. Our own mortality, our desire for connection, and maybe even a hope that there's something more after this life.
I think it's a beautiful way to look at it.
It brings me to one final thought.
Okay, I'm listening.
Maybe the most interesting part of the paranormal isn't whether ghosts are real or not.
So what is it then?
It's why we're so drawn to them in the first place. What does that tell us about ourselves and our need to understand the unknown?
Whoa, that's deep. It's a question worth thinking about, even if the answer remains a mystery.
Exactly.
Wow, this has been an incredible journey.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
We've covered so much ground, from scientific proof to personal experiences to skepticism to the cultural impact of ghosts.
It's been a whirlwind tour of the paranormal.
And while we may not have all the answers, I think that's okay.
The journey is just as important as the destination.
Right. It's about keeping an open mind, questioning what we think we know, and never losing that sense of wonder.
Because you never know what you might discover out there.
So true. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of ghosts.
It's been a pleasure exploring these mysteries with you.
Until next time, keep those spooky lights on.